The silence was louder than the slap. In the center of the gilded ballroom at the British Embassy in Vienna, surrounded by 300 diplomats, heiresses, and politicians, Clara Vale stood perfectly still. To her left, Lady Seraphine Mortimer was clutching a glass of champagne with a look of practiced horror. To her right, 2 security guards in dark suits waited for signal. And directly in front of her, standing on the dais where he had just announced his engagement, was Julian Ashbourne. Clara searched his face. She looked for the man who had once held her hand in a dusty archive room, the man who had whispered that she was the only one who truly saw him. But that man was gone. In his place stood a statue of ice and protocol. "She betrayed us, Julian," Seraphine said, her voice just loud enough to carry over the hush of the crowd. "She sold the treaty details to the press. She sold your trust." Clara didn't flinch. "I didn't leak anything. You know that, Julian. I was in the North Wing translating the annexes when the story broke." Julian's eyes met hers. For a second fraction of a heartbeat, she saw the conflict, the desperate, cowardly calculation of a man weighing his future against his conscience. Then he looked away. He adjusted his cufflinks. "I trust the security team's judgment," Julian said, his voice hollow. "Escort Miss Vale out." The gasp that rippled through the room wasn't one of surprise. It was the sound of a circle closing. The staff girl, the daughter of an archivist. She had been tolerated, used for her brilliance, and now she was being discarded. As the guards took her arms, Clara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked straight at Helena Ashbourne, Julian's mother, who was nodding in satisfaction from the front row. Clara realized then that she was alone. Or at least, that's what they wanted her to believe. They thought they were kicking a servant out of the palace. They had no idea they were evicting the only person who owned the keys to the kingdom. If you have ever been underestimated, you know the feeling. It's a specific kind of invisibility. You are in the room. You hear the secrets. You see the cracks in the foundation. But to the people in power, you are part of the furniture. Clara Vale had spent her entire life in the corridors of power. She grew up in the shadow of the Vienna embassy, the daughter of the late Arthur Vale, the chief archivist, while other children played in parks. Clara played among shelves of treaties and classified dossiers. By the time she was 20, she could read the nuances of a diplomatic crisis in the way a treaty was stapled. She was good, too good to be ignored, but too common to be celebrated. She became a protocol translator role that meant she smoothed over the mistakes of the elite. When a minister misspoke in a foreign tongue, Clara fixed it. When a treaty needed a silent revision to avoid war, Clara translated it. She was invisible oil in a machine that thought it ran itself. And then there was Julian. 5 years ago, Julian Ashbourne was just a foreign secretary's ambitious son, drowning in a scandal he hadn't created. A misfiled document had threatened to ruin his early career. Clara, then 25, had found the error, corrected the record, and saved him. They had spent 3 nights working together in the archives, fueled by coffee and a shared adrenaline. In the dark quiet of the records room, the class lines blurred. Julian had loved her, or at least, he loved that she understood the weight he carried. He loved that she didn't want his name or his money. She just wanted the truth. But the world they lived in didn't care about truth. It cared about lineage. Helena Ashbourne had found out. She didn't fire Clara. Helena was too sophisticated for that. She simply made it clear that a union between an Ashbourne and an archivist's daughter was a fantasy. Helena paraded heiresses and countesses in front of Julian, slowly eroding his spine until Clara became a secret he kept, and then a memory he buried. Clara accepted it. She had her dignity, and she had the trust of one man who saw the rot spreading in the dynasty, Lord Edmund Harrow. Lord Edmund Harrow was Julian's godfather and a retired ambassador of formidable reputation. He was also a man who trusted Clara's father, Arthur. Before Edmund died of a sudden heart attack 6 months ago, he called Clara to his bedside. The room smelled of old paper and medicine. The Ashbournes are desperate. Clara, Edmund had rasped. They need the Mortimer money to prop up the energy deal. But the Mortimers, they are sharks. I've seen the projections. If that treaty goes through as planned, it will strip the sovereign protections from the corridor. It's theft on a national scale. He had handed her a small, heavy envelope made of aged ivory parchment, sealed with red wax impressed with his personal signet ring. This is the codicil of custody. Edmund told her. It attaches to the original treaty. My grandfather inserted it to prevent exactly this kind of corruption. It states that any revision to the energy corridor must be authenticated by the designated custodian of the archives. I have designated you. Clara held the envelope. Why me, Edmund? Why not a lawyer? Because lawyers can be bought, he said, and politicians can be threatened. You, Clara, you are invisible. You are the ghost in the machine. Promise me you will only use this if they try to break the treaty for profit. She promised. She hid the envelope in a false bottom of her late father's favorite Latin phrase book, sitting innocently on her shelf. She thought she would never have to use it. She thought Julian, despite his ambition, would draw the line at treason. She was wrong. Let's talk about the night everything fell apart. It was the engagement gala. The guest of honor was the Austrian president, and the room was buzzing with the news of the new era alliance between the Ashbournes and the Mortimers. Clara was there, working. She wasn't a guest. She was stationed in the corner, tablet in hand, ready to translate the speeches. She watched Julian and Seraphine. They looked like a magazine cover tall, blonde, wealthy. But when Julian caught Clara's eye across the room, his smile faltered. He looked tired, haunted. Seraphine, however, looked triumphant. Her brother, Marcus, was working the room, shaking hands with energy investors. The deal was practically signed. All they needed was the parliamentary rubber stamp the next morning. Then the notification hit. Every phone in the room buzzed at once. A news alert. Leaked documents reveal secret terms in British-Austrian energy treaty. The headlines were brutal. They claimed the British side was selling out national assets. Helena Ashbourne moved first. She signaled to the security chief. "It's a breach," she announced, her voice cutting through the music. Someone accessed the classified servers from the lower archives. The IP address points to the translation office. All eyes turned to Clara. She was the only one who had access to the lower archives that night. "I was there," Clara said, stepping forward, "but I was working on the cultural exchange protocols. I didn't touch the treaty files." Marcus Mortimer stepped in, holding his phone. "Oh, really?" "Because the security log shows a download at 8:15 p.m. You were seen leaving the server room." It was a lie. Clara knew it. She had left at 8 o'clock p.m. to prepare for the speeches. But the digital footprint was fabricated, and that is when Seraphine delivered the blow. "Julian, darling, you vouched for her. You said she was loyal." Julian looked at Clara. He looked at his mother, whose expression promised a scandal that would end his career if he didn't play along. He looked at the investors, who were already murmuring about pulling out. If he defended Clara, he would be admitting that his judgment was flawed. He would be tying his sinking ship to a staff girl. So he chose survival. "I have to recuse myself," Julian said, staring at the floor. "Let the inquiry handle it." It was a coward's way out. By saying nothing, he said everything. He let them drag her away. If you are enjoying the story of hidden power and calculated betrayal, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. We tell these stories to remind us that dignity is not granted by others it is claimed. Clara stood on the sidewalk outside the embassy gates. The cold Vienna wind bit through her blazer. She had no job. She had no references. She had been publicly branded a traitor to the state. But she was not empty. She had the phrase book. She had the ivory envelope. She walked back to her small apartment, the grand chandeliers of the embassy fading behind her. She sat at her desk and opened the book. The envelope fell out. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She already knew the contents. The next morning, the news was full of the traitor translator. Her face was on every channel. The Ashbournes had spun the narrative perfectly at disgruntled employees seeking revenge. But Clara noticed something the news didn't. The treaty ratification vote was scheduled for the following Tuesday. The Ashbournes and Mortimers were racing to push it through before the leaked scandal could be fully investigated. They wanted the deal signed, sealed, and delivered. Clara knew the law better than they did. The treaty revision they were rushing to ratify, the one Marcus Mortimer had altered, was built on a foundation of sand. She called an old number, Mr. Abernathy, the embassy's retired solicitor. He had worked with her father. "Clara?" He answered, voice trembling. "I can't be seen with you. The injunctions." "I don't need legal defense, Abernathy," Clara said calmly. "I need to file a custodial intervention with the Parliamentary Oversight Committee. I have Lord Harrow's emergency codicil." Silence on the line, then a low whistle. "You hold the key?" "I hold the key," she said, "and I'm going to turn it." Clara didn't storm the castle. She didn't give interviews. She disappeared. To the public, she was a pariah. To the Ashbournes, she was a problem solved. But in the shadows, she was building a guillotine. She met with a junior communications aide named Elias. He had been the one to see Clara leave the server room at 8 p.m., not 8:15. He was terrified of losing his job. They altered the log. Elias whispered in a coffee shop in the outer district. "Marcus Mortimer came down 10 minutes after you left. He was carrying a black folder. He didn't sign in. Do you have the footage?" Clara asked. "The cameras in that hallway are on a loop cycle." But Elias slid a napkin across the table. On it was a series of numbers. The fire safety sensors record heat signatures independently. It's a separate system. It will show you leaving and Marcus entering. It was the proof she needed, not just that she was innocent, but that they were guilty. Meanwhile, the Ashbournes were celebrating. The parliamentary committee was a formality. Julian was set to testify as a witness of the security breach, finalizing the narrative that Clara was a leak. Julian sat in his office, staring at a photo of his father. He felt sick. He had done what was necessary. He had protected the family. So why did he feel like he had sawed off his own limb? His mother walked in. "The ratification is tomorrow, Julian. Once the ink is dry, the Mortimer capital transfers. We are safe." "Safe?" Julian repeated. "And Clara?" A footnote, Helena said dismissively. "Forget her." The Parliamentary Oversight Committee met in a grand hall in London. It was broadcast live. The nation watched, hungry for drama. Julian sat at the witness table. He looked composed, but his hands were shaking. He had practiced a statement. He would condemn the leak, condemn the security failure, and implicitly condemn Clara. "Mr. Ashbourne," the committee chair began. "Before we proceed to your testimony regarding the security breach, we have a late submission from an interested party claiming jurisdictional authority over the treaty instrument itself." Julian frowned. "Interested party?" The heavy doors at the back of the hall opened. Clara Vale walked in. The room erupted in whispers. She wasn't wearing her translator's uniform. She wore a sharp charcoal coat, her hair pulled back. She looked severe. She looked like she belonged there. Helena, sitting in the gallery, went rigid. Seraphine gripped the armrest of her chair until her knuckles turned white. Clara approached the table. She didn't look at Julian. She looked at the chair. She placed a document on the desk. It was the ivory-sealed envelope, now open. "For the record," Clara said, her voice clear and steady. "My name is Clara Vale. I am the designated custodial archivist of the Harrow Codicil, attached to the 1952 Energy Corridor Treaty. This committee is investigating a leak. Miss Vale," the chair said, "not hearing appeals." "With respect, sir," Clara interrupted, "you cannot investigate the leak of a treaty that does not legally exist." The room went silent. Clara held up the document. "Under the terms set by Lord Edmund Harrow, any revision to the energy corridor requires the counter-signature of the designated custodian. The revision currently before Parliament signed by the Ashbournes and the Mortimers bears no such signature. Therefore, the document you are about to ratify is a forgery of state authority." Julian stared at her. The realization hit him like a physical blow. She wasn't just a translator. Edmund had trusted her. Edmund had given her the kill switch. "You," Julian whispered. Clara turned to him then. Her eyes were not filled with hate. They were filled with the kind of disappointment that burns hotter than anger. "I tried to tell you, Julian, but you were too busy protecting your inheritance to see the truth." She turned back to the committee. "Furthermore, I have evidence that the leak attributed to me was orchestrated by Marcus Mortimer to force a hasty ratification. I submit the fire safety sensor logs and a copy of the forged treaty annex. The truth has a way of moving fast once it starts rolling. The committee reviewed the sensor logs. They matched Clara's timeline perfectly. They examined the signature on the treaty missing the unique pressure pattern of an authenticated document. Marcus Mortimer was called in, under the pressure of perjury and the undeniable data. He broke. He admitted the forgery. He admitted the leak. The New Era alliance shattered in real time. Helena Ashbourne stood up to leave, but cameras were already swarming her. "I knew nothing," she claimed, but the world saw the matriarch who had enabled the rot. Seraphine sat frozen. Her family's reputation, leverage on the deal, evaporated. She looked at Julian, but Julian was only looking at Clara. Clara stood at the center of the storm. She didn't gloat. She simply provided the truth. She was the archivist who corrected the record. The committee chair banged his gavel. The ratification is suspended pending a full criminal investigation into the Mortimer Group. Miss Vale, your service to the Crown is noted. In the aftermath, the fallout was seismic. The Ashbourne political dynasty was crippled. Helena resigned from her advisory posts. Julian was stripped of his envoy status, not for the crime, but for the catastrophic failure of judgment. Clara didn't return to the translation desk. She was offered a position of independent treaty custodiana, newly created role with oversight authority. She accepted on the condition that the archives be modernized to prevent future manipulation. Weeks later, Julian found her in the courtyard of the old embassy. He looked older. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollow exhaustion. "You saved the country," Julian said, "and you destroyed my life." Clara looked up from her book. "I didn't destroy your life, Julian. I just removed the lies holding it up. You did the rest." "I didn't know about the codicil," he said, "but I should have known you. I should have trusted you." "Yes," Clara said softly, "you should have. Is there any way?" He took a step closer. "Can we start over?" Clara looked at him. She remembered the man in the archives. She remembered the love. But she also remembered the silence in the ballroom. She remembered him looking away. "No, Julian," she said, not unkindly. "I'm not the same woman who sat in the dark with you, and you aren't the man I thought you were." She stood up. "But I wish you well. I hope you find your integrity. Maybe in the next life, you'll hold on to it." She walked past him. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She wasn't a shadow anymore. She was a light that exposed everything. Clara Vale walked out of that embassy not as a victim, not as a mistress, and not as a servant. She walked out as a woman who reminded the powerful that even the smallest print in a contract can topple an empire. Sometimes, the people we ignore are the only ones holding the keys to our survival. Never underestimate the quiet ones. If this story of betrayal and injustice resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We bring you these narratives to show that no matter how deep the betrayal, the truth is the one weapon they cannot take from you. Thank you for watching.